just a question. Have you ever experienced taking a test that even how hard your teacher tried to encourage you do no good to your understanding of any or most of the items? The result? More often than not, you fail. Sad. Then you would think, is this written test enough to say that I haven't learned at all? I'm Miss Arjem, and we will discuss the assessment of student progress in subject area reading and writing. This is the ninth chapter of the book Teaching Content, Reading and Writing by Dr. Martha Rapp Ruddle in 2008. Let's get started! This presentation will remind us of the terms used in assessment, reiterate the principles of assessment, give us an overview of the different types of assessment, and show how these assessments affect the learner's progress through a theoretical model. First, let us review some terms that you might have forgotten already after you have passed the course Assessment of Learning. The first terms are testing and measurement. These are ways to appraise students' reading and writing abilities using a set of oral or written questions, problems, or exercises. Testing and measurement involves quantification, for these are designed to use numbers to express findings. The next term is sampling. Sampling is the act of using part of any given entity to find out about the whole. However, this is highly vulnerable to error. Academic test results, especially those of smaller or narrower sample size, have greater probability of error, which often yield inaccurate or misleading results. And now are the two mostly interchanged terms, assessment and evaluation. McLaughlin and Vogt in 1996 defined assessment as the gathering and synthesizing of information concerning students' learning, while evaluation is making judgments about students' learning. In that case, a great deal of assessment and evaluation go on in teachers' heads as they watch students in their classes, review and grade their work, and consider individual and group academic effectiveness. Now, let us learn what principles should we apply in assessment. Number one, remember that assessment should focus on learning. Our goal is to assist, encourage, and enhance learning. Focus on what students know rather than on what they don't know. And assessment should only occur after the students are given adequate time to learn. Number two, assessment should be equitable. This means that assessment should be fair, impartial, and just. Assessment should be appropriate for all students regardless of the range of diversity that they represent. For students that might need special facilities or services for assessment, teachers have to provide. That is how equity works. Number three, assessment should be congruent with the aims of the system, school, and the curriculum. For years, we have been talking about critical thinking, problem solving, higher order thinking in education, yet we continue to give teacher-made and published achievement tests that focus on literal level knowledge. Is that congruent? Once goals, curriculum, and instructions are in line, assessment strategies must be determined that reflect and support them. Number four, assessment should recognize the limitations of assessment methods. We have to remember that no matter what means we use to evaluate student progress, error or bias intrudes. Therefore, it is a must to understand how each procedure is vulnerable to error, recognize that limitation, and take steps to minimize it. Number five, Assessment should reduce competition and increase cooperation in the classroom. The purpose of assessment is to find out how well and in what ways students are able to do what we want them to do and not to merely compete with one another. Number 6, assessment should include participation by students. Yes, this may sound idealistic, but a little yielding on our part as teachers can have major benefits for both our students and ourselves. Whatever our goals and beliefs about grading, students need to have some say in how they are assessed. Finally, number 7, assessment should include consistent and meaningful reporting. An honest, clear appraisal to students frequently and regularly helps them to know at all times where they stand in their overall achievement in every class. Oh, how I wish teachers would abide to all these principles. What a wonderful world it would be. All right, there are also different types of assessment, and we'll go through them one by one. The first one is formal assessment. Have you passed the licensure exam? Well, you have passed one example of formal assessment. Formal assessments are programs carried out to the school or district level that focus on testing and measurement. It includes district or state mandated off-the-shelf achievement test batteries. In the Philippines, the National Achievement Test or NAT, taken by grade school, middle school, and high school students, and the Alternative Learning System Accreditation and Equivalency Test are examples of formal assessment. Formal assessment is composed of different testing instruments. The first one is standardized test or norm reference test. This is a test designed to measure individual performance as compared to an identified norm group. Number 2, test battery. Test battery is a group of several tests standardized on the same norm group so that the test scores are comparable. Number 3, survey test or achievement test. It is a test that measures general achievement in a given area. It is generally considered to be reasonable estimates of group achievement and not very good precise measures of individual achievement. Number 4, diagnostic test. Diagnostic test is administered to locate and analyze specific strengths and weaknesses of the test takers. And the last one, criterion reference test. This test is designed to provide information on a student's specific skills rather than compare the student to a norm group. Three important things should be remembered in interpreting test results. The first one is test validity. For a test to be valid, the test should measure what it is supposed to measure. Next, test reliability. For a test to be reliable, it should be consistent in measuring what it is intended to measure. And the last one is standard errors of measurement or SEM. It is a statistic that provides an estimate of the possible magnitude of error present in an obtained score. Mm, if you have more questions on this, you may ask your statistics teacher. And that's it for formal assessment. The next one is informal assessment. This is the assessment that we use in the classroom, like the teacher-made tests, observations, interviews, self-reports, and journals. Central to informal assessment is the notion that we are able to take more and more varied samples of students' abilities and behaviors than formal assessment procedure allows. Informal assessment has its advantages. First, teachers can identify the real reading and writing ability of the students since the assessment can be done using various procedures. Next, teachers can get information beyond formal assessment test results through interviews, observations, and actual teacher-made tests. Lastly, informal assessment serves as a natural extension of effective instruction since it happens on a daily basis. Although formal assessment always has quantifiable test scores, some, if not all, of the test scores may be applicable to the other types of assessment too. The first one is the raw score or the number of correct responses obtained by the student. The next one, mean median mode score. Mean is the average of raw or other scores. Median is the middle or the point that divides a set of scores into two equal parts. And mode is the score that occurs most frequently, hence the score obtained by more students than any other score. Next is the percentile rank. It is a converted score that tells the position of the obtained score within a group of 100 scores. So, if a student's score is on the 93rd percentile, that student scored equal or above 93% of the norm group. And the last, number 4, is STAY9 or Standard 9 score. It is expressed on a 9-point scale of standard scores with the number 5 as corresponding to the mean. STAY9 is recommended by measurement experts as the most useful score for comparing students' progress from one test administration to another. The third type of assessment is authentic assessment, or the systematic sampling of student behavior to see how well and in what ways students did a task. Examples of this are real-life experiences and performance tasks. Authentic assessment follows certain standards. First, it occurs at short intervals over time. These intervals are planned and systematic and not left to chance and whims. Next, it requires information from a variety of sources. Test is just one source of information. There are many other ways that include daily, weekly, and unit work activities. Third, authentic assessment occurs while students are engaged in or using products from real reading and writing tasks. One example is this. Instead of giving isolated word spelling or vocabulary tests, teachers note and keep systematic records of student spelling or vocabulary behaviors both in drafts and in polished written products. Finally, authentic assessment uses teacher observation as major source of information about how well and in what ways students can articulate content knowledge. To become skilled in authentic assessment, teachers learn to observe and analyze student behaviors as these behaviors occur in the course of regular classroom activities. Now, let's discuss the final type of assessment. Portfolio assessment is the selective collection of student work and records of progress, and it is believed to be the most useful means of gathering various kinds of evidence to use in the assessment process. In subject area classrooms, portfolio assessment focuses on content learning but may include language and literacy elements as well. There are three types of portfolio assessment as discussed by Dr. Ruddle. The first one is ownership portfolio, in which students select contents for the purpose of promoting independent learning. The next one is the feedback portfolio, in which students and teachers collaborate to determine contents for the purpose of documenting student learning. The last one is the accountability portfolio, in which contents are selected by students, teachers, and test directors for the purpose of evaluating achievements. There are also critical questions that we need to answer when designing an effective portfolio assessment. Number one, What are the purposes of this portfolio assessment? Why do I want my students to do this? For ownership, for document learning, or for showing accountability? Number two, what will be the criteria for assessment? What kind of evidence am I looking for? What do I want students to demonstrate and show in the portfolio? Number three, whose responsibility is to do what? How directive should I be regarding portfolio contents? How much leeway should I give my students? Number four, what will the guidelines be? How will the students know or judge the quality of their own work? What should I include in the rubric? What is my standard of quality? Number five, how should materials be collected? Where will the portfolio be housed? How should they present the materials? How many items should be included per category? And number six, what will the working procedures be? When and how often should be the portfolio checked and evaluated? How will I report the evaluation to the students? If you have clear answers to all these questions, then your portfolio assessment should be effective. If we talk about subject area, these are some of the possible contents of a portfolio. Of course, you may omit some, modify some, and add some. You may pause this video to read and list the sample contents. Yay! It's wrap up time! Let's wrap up our discussion by talking about our theoretical model. Learners' progress can only be attained if they have undergone the four types of assessment. One assessment has both strengths and weaknesses. Errors and biases will occur. Our goal as teachers is to minimize the occurrence of error and maximize learning, be it through standardized formal assessments or daily teacher-made informal assessments or systematic authentic assessments or well thought of portfolio assessments. If teachers are determined to assist students toward effective, independent, and guided learning, success will always follow. Have you ever learned something from this video presentation? I hope you do. That's my purpose. To end, please remember that life is also a test of faith. We need to fight the good fight of faith and take hold of the eternal life which God has promised to give to His faithful children. May we be faithful witnesses to our students while we lead them heavenward. Happy teaching! See you again!